Glenn, tell us about you. Tell us about what you're doing, why you're here at Hunt Expo.
All right. So I 22 years in the SEAL teams, got out back in September of 19, pitched this idea to my investors from Sons of Liberty Gunworks,
Okay.
which I also, with Mike Mahalski, back in 2013, came up with the idea for Sons of Liberty Gunworks. So pitched this idea to them. They were really excited about it, and kind of got to work on that 2021 timeframe, middle of 2021. Worked on designing and developing all the clothing and some of our hard goods over the next couple of years, designing and redesigning. And then we released, not at this SHOT Show, but the prior SHOT Show is really our big release date. So we were out a little before that, but so we've been selling for about a year and a half.
What's the product?
So the product is based off of, so in the SEAL teams, we're very meticulous about our gear. Obviously, everything has to be just so. Granted, everybody doesn't have the exact same characteristics and things that they want out of their gear. And everybody, has little tweaks here and there that they want for themselves, but we're always like, oh, this could be better if this was like this, or this could be, and so my idea was to take that aspect of my personality of wanting to really create a good product, and then taking some of the stuff that is kind of already out there, especially in the military side, which is like the PCU system, which is a great leveling system, but everything in my head has its flaws, including some of our stuff's flaws.
Yeah.
Things that we're working through. But really turning it into a good civilian product, adding the civilian features that make sense, adding better fabrics.
So like a layering system, like a clothing layering system for hunting, or
our main products, our main part of our line is called the Hunt line.
Mm-hmm.
And the Hunt line is a 7-layer layering system. Starts with base layer, goes all the way up through hard shell. And it will take you anywhere from the desert all the way up to at least -50.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the idea for that. And then we also have our lodge line, which is exactly what it sounds like. Simple. It's a very nice, manly, aesthetic look, dress up, dress down kind of lodge wear.
Cool.
But as far as the Hunt line goes, we wanted to incorporate, we want to take the idea of the PCU system, dumb it down a little bit to just make it easier to use, and then do kind of like what Sons Liberty has done with their brand, which is really add in a lot of the like knowledge-based stuff. So like really being open and transparent about what goes into that product, why we do something this way, why this happens. But the leveling system is a 1 through 7. And if it is a level 6, that means it goes over a level 5, it goes over a level 4, etc. The PCU system has pieces in it that, like the camis themselves that you operate in are a level 9, which that doesn't make any sense because obviously you're not going to wear your level 9 over a huge level 7, puff gear, right? So making that simpler, and then adding in all the features that you can in the civilian market, because you're not looking at trying to process it through the lowest bidder. And so we've added in a lot of features that we think make sense and really add quality. And that's the other part of what I'm looking at, is that my main thing when I talk to my designer and my manufacturers and stuff like that is that I'm very big on quality. If it's going to add quality to the product, I want it, regardless of, price necessarily. So if there are 2 fabrics that are identical and one's cheaper, obviously I'm going to go with the cheaper because they're identical.
Mm-hmm.
If there are 2 products, one is better by 25% and it's only going to cost me another 10%, I'm going with that.
Yeah.
Same thing with features. If there's a feature that makes sense, I'm going to have it on my product, and then that will basically dictate the price of the product. We've done a really good job of finding the right manufacturers to do a really good job.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also are at a price point where it's hard to beat what we are providing at the price point we offer.
What's the name of the company again?
It's called the Wilderness Company.
Wilderness Company. Okay.
Yes.
How long have you guys been selling product?
Like I said, we officially released at SHOT Show last year.
Last year. Okay.
We were out a little before that, but our official release was SHOT Show last year.
So on your gear, do you use a specific kind of camo? Do you have your own camo patterns, or is it just solid colors?
So that's another thing we did. I got with a industry camouflage guy. His name is Andrew Bodeman. And he helped me take my vision and turn it into the camo that we use. Our camouflage is called Cicada. And the reason it's called Cicada is because it's got cicada wings built into the pattern. And when I was designing it and trying to figure out what I wanted in it, I knew for the most part what I wanted. I wanted like a simple camouflage background. I wanted an overlay of branches to break it up. And then I wanted some sort of geometrical sort of like pattern. And everybody does the hex pattern, and they're like, oh yeah, you find it in nature, but realistically you only find a hex pattern in a beehive. So to me that didn't make sense. And I was looking at like a rotting leaf and how the veins kind of make up a pattern by themselves. And I was out camping and ran across cicada wings like on their own on the ground. I was like, that is perfect. And so we built in cicada wings to the pattern. Andrew Whitman came on board. He actually turned the camouflage into a useful pattern, because what you don't know about camouflage, you don't know, but it has to repeat left, right, up, down, and it has to do all the other things, which is you have to scale it correctly. You have to color it correctly so that it maintains its depth. You have to do all that stuff that really makes sense of camouflage. He came in, he added a little bit of a Rhodesian flair to the background, and then really just brought it together. And we have it in two colors. We have it in uplands and lowlands. Uplands is going to be your green patterns, and lowlands is going to be all your brown patterns. And it works really well. Pretty much anywhere in the United States, depending on which way you go with that.
Cool. And so you're a former SEAL.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that. When did you start? What year did you go to Buds? Like your path through the SEAL teams?
Yeah. So I actually joined the Navy the day after I turned 18. That was 97.
Wow.
And then luckily kind of made it straight through. I had chosen at the time, used to have to go to an A school for a sub rating for the Navy. And then I did quartermaster because it was the shortest one. It was 6 weeks. I was like, all right, just get me to Buds. Yep. And went to Buds, made it through, graduated Buds in August, literally almost exactly a year after I came in, right after I turned 19. And I was in until September of 19. So I did 22 years. That's
impressive, though. For people that don't know, for an 18-year-old to come out of high school, to go through Buds and pass right away is very rare. Yeah. I think the average age, I heard this at some point, is like 20 to 21, which is exactly the time when I went through too, my age when I went through. But man, to have the maturity to be able to get through Buds at 18 years old that's next level.
Yeah, I believe at the time I was the youngest SEAL to have graduated Buds.
Insane. Yeah, most kids right out of high school don't make it.
Yeah.
So that's impressive. So cool. So you graduated Buds. What was that? 1998.
Yep.
What class?
218.
218. So you graduated Buds. What team did you go to?
So initially, I got the one I requested. So I got to go to Team 3. That was on my wish list.
Yeah.
At the time, they were the only ones kind of with a mission throughout the entire community, because that was prior to 9/11 and stuff like that. It wasn't a very glamorous mission. It was just enforce the embargo against Iraq and doing meals and stuff like that. So that was my first deployment, was going and doing that. And then came back from that deployment, and a couple months later, I want to say about 8 months later, I think it was, that's when 9/11 happened. And so I was driving to work, and my roommate calls me, and he's like, dude, plane just hit the towers. I'm like, I'm listening to the radio. I'm pretty sure they would have said something if that happened. And then right then the radio clicked over. I'm like, I'm about to drive over the Coronado Bridge going into Coronado, and it's like kind of surreal. I'm like, holy cow. So I get into the command. And at the time, Team 3 was that AO.
Mm-hmm.
And got on the grinder. The CO pulled us all back there and basically was like, get your stuff ready. We're going to go.
Yeah.
And so everybody's like super excited, obviously, not for that reason, but for the idea that, okay, we've done all this training.
Yeah.
At the time, nothing big was going on. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, let's
Get to go to work.
Yeah.
try our shit. So,
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because we were in the same place at the same time back when the SEAL teams were at the same place as Buds was at the same compound. Now it's different.
yeah.
But I was in Buds when 9/11 happened. So I'm a little bit younger than you, apparently. Well, maybe we're the same age. You just went through.
I am 45.
I am 45 as well. So
Yeah.
you just went through earlier than me. I had to mature a little bit before I could actually go through.
I still need to mature. So that's,
So, well, cool. So SEAL Team 3, 9/11 happens. Everything changes. I remember the Coronado Bridge. I remember we were in La Posta in Buds doing some kind of land. I think we did land nav stuff out in La Posta. I don't even think they use La Posta anymore. Back when they had that big old satellite when you pass on the 8.
they
You could
still
see that.
they do still
do
use
use
La
it.
Posta. I don't think they do land nav out there. Maybe they do for SQT.
Yeah.
La Posta's actually grown.
Is it?
They have a lot of stuff out there now. They built a whole the kill house out there is huge.
Yeah.
It's moving walls, breaching indoor.
I don't think there was much out there when I went out there. I think there was like a place to sleep, and as a matter of fact, I don't really remember what we were doing out there. I thought it was land nav, but I could be wrong because Laguna was right there. We did land nav at Laguna for sure.
Yeah, they kind of did it backwards though. So they built all that stuff and they did it without adding to the sleeping area. So there's almost no sleeping area out there at the time. I don't know what it looks like
U.S.
now.
government,
'cause
U.S. government's finest.
Yeah, I got out in 19, but they never increased the sleeping ability. But then they added all these facilities. They didn't add a chow hall. They didn't add anything. There's nowhere within 15 minutes or 20 minutes that you can even drive to get food. And if you want to go the 15, 20 minutes, it's like a single place. Everybody went there to eat.
Yeah, it's in the middle of
take
nowhere.
forever. Yeah,
It's literally in the middle of nowhere.
but yeah, they a great facility out there. They did the same thing out on San Clemente where they built their mount facility out there.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's like you go out there and you good things and bad things from that. One is it's for some reason San Clemente is very difficult to get to and from because the flights and stuff like that are always canceling. But once you get out there, you focus, right? Because there's nothing else to do.
So right. So okay. So you get to 9/11 happens. You're at SEAL Team 3. What is it like at the team post 9/11 2001?
So a lot of excitement. Obviously, from then on, it's we had a troop that deployed to Afghanistan right then. My troop, my platoon ended up, we waited to deploy, but we did a split deployment, Afghanistan, and then Iraq, the kickoff of Iraq, we did the push. And from then on, it was just I was very fortunate. I always seemed to be in the platoon or troop that got to go to the hotspot. So got really lucky through my career. We would, even at some points, it was only one platoon got to go, and it just so happened to be my platoon. Or if there was only one troop that went, it just happened to be my troop.
Yeah.
So I feel very fortunate in that, just to be able to actually go out and do what we train for.
Spent a whole career, 22 years, did you say?
Yes.
22 years. That's a long time. Probably, 13, 14 deployments?
No, it was only 8 deployments. So I did 2 deployments with 3. And then I went to SQT. I was an instructor there.
Okay.
And then I went to 1.
What years were you SQT instructor?
03 to 06.
Just right after I was in there 02.
Yeah. And then went to 1. I did 2 deployments there. And then I was a trade instructor for 2 years. And then I was back at 1 for 2 more deployments and an augment. And then I went to group 1. And then I was back at 1 for deployments and another augment. But Yeah.
Cool, man. That's a pretty amazing career. One of my good friends, who I went through buds with, who I still maintain contact with today, Bo Nankivel. So he was at 3 and 1 his whole career. I assume you probably know each other. He ended up as a Master Chief, I believe. Was it 3 or 1? I can't remember. He was also at Buds. I think Master Chief at Buds as well. So I was an East Coast SEAL, so don't have a lot of connection with most of the guys from the West Coast, other than if we went to Buds together. But yeah, I mean, just what a great community to be a part of, and a lot of really interesting people coming out of that community now, making some big names for themselves, doing really great things in this community and other communities. And it's cool to look back and know that you were kind of a part of this really amazing community.
That's been one of my hard parts about starting my own company and doing this. Is part of the thing was that my investors are like, you have to be the face of this. You have to, get yourself out there. And it's hard for me. It's like, I totally I came up in the community as like the
silent warrior.
So silent professional. And I don't want to be out I don't want to sell my product based on the fact that I was a SEAL. I want to sell my product on the fact that it's a quality product that I put a lot of work into. And I also don't want to be the guy out there that's like, I'm a SEAL, I want to be,
When I first got out, I started a training company. And on the training company, I didn't have anything about my, at a bio, but there's nothing about me being in the SEAL teams. And I had my Master Chief at SEAL Team 2 call me. His name's Steve Matalevich, called him Matto. He's pretty well known in the teams. He calls me. He had gotten out at the same time I did, and he went to work for, I want to say Blackhawk. Blackhawk. And he goes, dude, what are you doing? I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, you need to put the fact that you were a SEAL on your bio. And I'm like, I don't know if I really feel comfortable doing that. He goes, no, do it. So that gave me kind of that initial, okay, my Master Chief is telling me it's okay. I go to Blackhawk website, and he's on there as kind of he was one underneath the main guy. What's the guy's name? Mike Knoll or something? I can't remember. Yeah. He was the guy right underneath him. And that gave me some confidence. Okay, we're not in the teams anymore. You're in business now, and you got to promote your stuff. And you accomplished all of this. You've earned it. So I was like, okay. And so it does take. It took a lot of time for me to be comfortable with it too.
Well, it was really just until recently, at the Phelps location, where you got your office set up and started putting up some, your ore and all the other stuff. And it was because we've had this conversation. I'm like, why are we not? Do you not want to? And he's like, I want people to buy our stuff because it's awesome. Not because, that's what I did. It's not necessarily who I am right now and proud of it, but I want my product to stand on my product.
Whenever I'm talking to somebody or whenever I'm, doing that stuff, it's always in the back of my head, you got to do this right. You got to it has to be done right. If you don't, it just gives you that yuck feeling, And I was just talking to my buddy Beto about it, we did a troop together, and just talking to him about the guys in that troop and where they're at now and how the really good dudes are doing really well and how awesome that is. And I think just as long as you do it right and you don't do it on the back of the Trident, but do it, show the respect for it.
I think the Trident is its own brand, and it's one of the most powerful brands in America. And so as a SEAL, you represent that brand, and it's really important that you don't abuse it and that you only do things to enhance the Trident. And I see, you don't see it often, but every once in a while you see people, there's some level of abuse, maybe even not purposely, they just maybe some, inexperience, let's just say. But I've always been very cautious about the Trident brand, and I wanted to make sure that I was living up to that. If other SEAL team members were to see what I was doing, that they would be proud of that and that I represent the SEAL team brand well.
I mean, yeah, that's the hope.
Yeah, that's the hope. Well, Glenn, thanks for sharing your story, dude. It's nice meeting you. And I appreciate you coming on here and talking about your business and about your experience in the SEAL teams.
All right, thanks.
So looking to see you around.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah.